Welcome to the 6th day of this YouTube channel. Today's topic is reconciliation, self-reconciliation to be in particular. At first glance, it could be easily seen as self-reconciliation. That makes no sense, because when you go to get reconciled with somebody or attain forgiveness or give forgiveness, it's kind of like a two-way street. It happens at the same time. You can't have just one side of the coin. Both of it's going to happen. But no, I'm talking about things that happen in life that get swept under the carpet. In particular, things we don't do that we regret, but we forget that we regret it. Something that could happen when we're younger. And there are things that we don't do. That regret happens. And it gets swept under the carpet. Months go by. Years go by. Decade go by. 2 decades goes by. 3 decades go by. You see where it's going. Well, let me give you some specific examples of what I'm talking about. It's easy to get caught up in that mindset of time heals everything. Given enough time, not everything. Some things, they just keep going and going and going, growing in the dark, growing in the dark. It's still happening. Think you're getting years away from it? Think you got away with it? Nope. Still comes back to bite you in the ass. Anyways, I'd stumbled across this thing like 6 months ago, 7 months ago, when it really hit me like a ton of bricks. Because I'd been studying the psychology and science of forgiveness every day for around 18 months. And I was going to create a booklet on it. And then something happened. And I realized that I'd found something that can really, that's just so beneficial. Check this out. Let me tell you this story. Okay, picture this. Early 90s. No, better yet, late 80s. Late 80s, early 90s. I was like 16 years old. 17 years old, 18, somewhere around there. Anyways, I was at the height of a very toxic lifestyle already. And at the time, the girlfriend I had was pregnant. And where I'd lived in McDonald County, southwestern Missouri, just one county over, was the ground zero for Walmart's corporation. Walmart supercenters, they're everywhere. They're like one of the largest retailers in the world. But anyways, it was starting to really take off at that time. I mean, they was really starting to get it together. They was loading their bases. They had the concept of putting these warehouses up around their stores and positioning these warehouses to where they could necessitate mini stores like a... But anyways, getting kind of off track. At that time, there was basically 2 holy grails to work at. You know, that had great benefits, great money to offer. I mean, jobs, business booming, growing, needing workers. One of them was what they call Little Debbie's. Well, that'd be hillbilly terms. It's actually McGee Baking Company that made facilities there in Gentry, Arkansas, that really exploded and grew to a really massive size. And of course, Walmart. And at that time, I knew that those would be the best plays. But yet my self-esteem, self-worth, and all that was just so freaking low. I just couldn't force myself to go do it. I couldn't even apply because it was like my self-worth was so low. I couldn't even apply there. Couldn't even make it in the door. I could drive by there, I couldn't do it. Didn't do it. Didn't force myself to do it. Didn't have the balls. But anyways, yeah, I hated myself for that. And it got swept under the carpet. Years go by, take these other lesser jobs and drink a lot of alcohol, use a lot of drugs. From that point, drank a lot of beer, smoked a lot of pot. I think that was the beginning of the major pot smoking. I think I smoked my brains out for like 20 years in a row. I'm talking like every freaking day. But anyways, to make a long story short, 30 years goes by. And I happen to be happened to be living in Gentry, Arkansas in this past 6 months. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go apply in there. And then as I went to apply there, I couldn't make it in the door. I couldn't make it in the door. I couldn't even get into it online. I mean, I couldn't get the mentality. It took me a couple of days, and it's like, my God. It's like, what the hell is that? But anyways, it took about a week to literally push myself in there. And then when I finally got in there and finally applied and talked to some real people and actually shook some hands and looked in some eyeballs and talked to people, I had a big weight lifted off of me. There was a lightness to my body and my brain. It's like there was like a lightness, a heaviness lifted off my chest, so I can breathe a little bit better and move around a little bit freer. And that's when that night when I was writing about that in my journal, that's when it just struck me like a ton of bricks. It's like that self-reconciliation. And I started pressing in hard on that self-reconciliation thing and really studying that. But anyways, just like 7 days ago, 5 days ago, 6 days ago, I happened to be in Bentonville. How ironic, right? Now the other stone, those two stones, those two holy grails to work at that I failed to apply for when I was like 18 years old, 19 years old. Now's my chance. This time, it was a little bit easier. But this time I raised the bar. Applied for multiple applications in for these Walmart jobs. And one of them was for a management position. And of course, I felt like that all this questioning in that management questions is like, all that stuff was just so iffy to me. It's just so iffy. But I know there was some kind of psychology behind all that. And that's pretty cool. I'm not going to go into what it was, but case and point. There was another release of heaviness out of my chest and out of my mind and out of my body that freed me up even more. Even more. And this time is like, if I could put those feelings into words, like the feelings that just came, it's like it came up out of my body and just left. I mean, when I went in to have an interview and talked to a couple of managers and met a marketing manager, which is really awesome. And it was just such a great honor. I mean, it really was. It blew my freaking mind. Yeah, it was something. If those words could be translated, I mean, if those feelings could have been translated into words, the way that heaviness was leaving my body as I was walking into the building, my heart was pounding out of my chest. And then as soon as I started shaking these people's hands and talking to them, it's like everything just calmed down. It's like there was just that release. And then it was like some friends. It's just some friends I've never met before. But it's almost like it was almost like the past me was in a cage in the past. And here I am all the way in the future, like 30 years later. And then that 18-year-old me was like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. You let me out. I knew you wouldn't forget me. I knew you wouldn't let me behind. I knew you wouldn't leave me behind. I knew you'd come back for me. And it was a very, very, it was an emotional thing. I'm damn near getting emotional right now just talking about it. So I'm going to have to kind of deflect and go into something else. I don't want to do a crying video right now. I don't want to get all emotional. Although we may do that in later videos. Anyways, and this is how the universe orchestrated it. It's the very first neighborhood market, the prototype that was built like 26 years ago when they were really first testing out the technology, the surveillance, and the new systems and the new methods for self-checkouts and stuff. That's where it kicked all off, right there. Right here with us in Benton County. If you're wondering how that came about all throughout the United States, there's the motherland of it. And there's so many other things that operate in the United States that's born right here in this town of Bentonville. It's just freaking mind-blowing. It just blows my mind that I've lived around this area all my life and never have came to live in the middle of Bentonville. No one damn well. No one damn well. It's like, oh my God. But that's self-reconciliation. It's like I reconciled with myself. I made it up to myself. I made it right with myself. So, having said that, if there was that much heaviness that came off of me from those two items in this past 1 year, of those two items right there, I'm assuming a couple other items I take care of. There's not a lot, just a couple. And I think most people will just have a couple, not a lot. It doesn't matter whether they're 50 or 60. Like you talk to old people that are almost dying, you ask them what their regrets are. They don't talk about what they did wrong or how they messed up. They regret what they didn't try. And it's usually just one or two things. Yeah, it's freaking mind-blowing that something so simple just like that can be so enlightening. It, to me, is like a freaking spiritual experience. I mean, I don't know. I tried to describe it, but that's about the best I can say. Is like there was a me trapped in the past in a cell, and I come back and got him out, and now he's been integrated with me, reconciling the present with the past and the past with the present. But anyways, it sparked new ideas since then, and some new notes came out on paper, and I was thinking, what about reconciling the present with the future me? Of course, that uses imagination and stuff, and that'll be a whole another ball of wax there. It won't be like that, but it might be. It could very well be something, definitely. So. Anyways, happy full moon. Oh, I had to correct one thing too. Last night I did a video and I mentioned something about the full moon. I was misinformed on some YouTube stuff. I grabbed it. Hang on, it's 15 minutes right now. I grabbed some information and didn't research it none at all. Grabbed the ball. I try not to do that because it's usually wrong. I mean, yes, it was a full moon, and yes, it was a special full moon, but not one that only happens 2,000 years. But maybe in another dimension it's true. So anyways, my bad. I'll try not to do that to you guys. You guys deserve better than that shit. Try to be straight up and keep it that way. Have a good one. See you in the Funny Papers.